Welcome to the Jaron Jarvis channel. I am Jaron Jarvis. Today, I would like to introduce to you, Things in Ukraine Did Not Go As Planned Part 1. We'd been visiting Yuri's family in rural Ukraine for a week or so when our 5-year-old daughter, Cecilia, took ill. She shook in the night with fever, sweat plastering her black hair to her forehead. "Mama, I don't feel so good. I'm sick," she said to me as I tucked her in. She was alarmingly pale, with dark circles under her brown eyes. "I'm sorry, Serdenko," I said, stroking her brow. I could feel the heat radiating from her. "Tomorrow, Daddy and I will find you a doctor in town. Try and sleep, Poppet." I sang her a favorite lullaby and pulled the covers up around her chin. Before long, her eyes fluttered and she drifted off to sleep. I turned out the light and walked softly back to the living room of the little 2-bedroom house we'd rented in Ostrovia while we looked into adopting another Ukrainian orphan. "She's really hot, Yuri. I'm so worried," I said. He sat by the fire, smoking and nursing a scotch. I remember the wind and snow howling outside and shaking the casement windows. Frost crazed the window panes and I could feel the chill from the storm despite the large fire Yuri had built. "I know, Sasha. We'll take her into town tomorrow. They can help her, I hope. Did you give her the paracetamol?" "Yes, I hope it does something." "Should we go into the doctor tonight?" I asked him, twisting my hands with worry. "Not in this mess, Zolotko," he said, gesturing to the window. "We're likely to need a doctor ourselves if we try. It's already past your knees out there and that snow makes the roads impassable." He filled his scotch from the bottle on the side table and lit another cigarette. "I'm sorry, my love, there's no plow until morning in this one-horse bag." He held out his hand. "Come, sit with me by the fire. We'll go first thing, after the plows come." The next morning, we drove the little blue Skoda we'd rented through the snow-lined streets, following directions to the clinic across town. Cecilia sat like a lump of dirty laundry in the back seat, coughing and moaning. The wipers tried mightily to clear the windshield, but the slushy mix of salt and snow made visibility nearly impossible. Yuri cursed under his breath with every skid and slide and did his best to keep us on the road. The building was decrepit. The waiting room was only 6 hard plastic chairs arranged haphazardly on the dirty linoleum with a faded poster of a Black Sea resort on the peeling walls. An old woman in a babushka and holding a blood-stained handkerchief to her nose sat in one of the chairs. Her roomy grey eyes followed us as we entered the clinic and crossed the floor. The office windows looking out onto the street were filmed over and almost opaque. I went up to the desk and talked to the nurse, feeling the eyes of the old woman on my back the whole time. The nurse's name Tagriduliana. She was a rather nondescript woman in her early 30s, but greeted me with a small smile when she saw the obvious concern on my face. "Zdravstvuyte," I began. "Do you speak English? I'm afraid my Ukrainian isn't as good as it should be." "Tak, a little," she said. "Enough to get by." "Dyakuyu," I said, trying to win her over with what little Ukrainian I could recall. "Our daughter, Cecilia, is quite ill. She's got a fever, Haryokavi fever. And she won't eat." "Could we see the doctor, please? Vi moite zaplatiti?" she asked, the smile fading from her face. "Yes, we have money. We can pay." "Tak," she said. "First a little paperwork, and then the doctor will see you. He's in with patient now and Mrs. Vidma is before you." She handed over an old dented, Soviet-era metal clipboard with some blank forms. While we sat and I completed the forms, Yuri rocked Ceci. The old woman was called into the examination rooms and I saw her converse with the nurse for a moment, gesturing to us. After a long while the old woman came back out, left the office, shooting a final glance our way. The nurse motioned for us to follow her. I saw that woman, Mrs. Vidma. I saw her motion to us. What did she want? The nurse let out a short bark of a laugh. "She's a superstitious old woman. She doesn't like foreigners. Poanov dacha, bad luck. She thinks you come here to steal our children. I wouldn't worry about her, she won't be around long." "Rak," she said. "Cancer." The narrow hallway opened onto 3 or 4 small examination rooms centered around a dimly lit nurse's station. The air smelled strongly of antiseptic and camphor. A door to the outside at the end of the hallway was partially open and snow blew in through the small gap. She motioned for us to wait in the hallway while she walked down the length of the hall and closed it, fighting against the strong wind. She almost slipped on the melted snow inside the doorway and I heard her utter a soft moo. As she steadied herself against the wall, she showed us into a small, cramped room and took Ceci's temperature. "It's 39.7, she said, shaking down the mercury of the old thermometer. "Very high. What's that in Fahrenheit? Do you know?" I asked. She did a quick mental calculation and said about 103.5. I kissed Ceci's damp brow. "My poor baby," I whispered to her. She let out a quiet moan. "The doctor will be by in just a moment," she said, closing the door. We waited anxiously for a few minutes when there was a soft knock on the door. A short, balding man with thick spectacles entered the room quickly and introduced himself as Dr. Slow. His lab coat was stained with reddish-brown spots and his glasses were as filmy and spotted as the office windows. "A fever," he said in accented English. He seemed impatient and kept glancing at the door. I noticed his shoes were worn and dotted with melting snow. "We have seen much of this recently in Z-Town." "Yes, we're quite worried, doctor," I said. "I will take a quick look at her." "Yes. Please do, doctor," Yuri said. "Anything to make her better. We would have come last night, but the roads." He nodded and gave her a cursory exam, listened to her chest with a tarnished stethoscope. "No matter," he said, removing a metal syringe from his coat pocket. "I have what she needs. Medicina, medicine." He rolled her pajamas up and gave her a quick jab in the thigh with the syringe. The liquid inside was a milky, opalescent green and Ceci let out a quiet yelp. I saw his hands tremble as he massaged the spot and placed a light dressing over the injection site. "There, she will be better now," he said. He turned and exited the room quickly and without a word. Yuri and I were gathering our coats after exchanging curious and somewhat alarmed glances when another soft knock came at the door. A tall man with a grey goatee wearing a crisp white lab coat entered. "I'm sorry for the delay. I am Dr. Dobre," he began now. "What seems to be the problem with little Ceci?"